Welcome back, everybody, to Unconditional Surrender, the Me, Myself, and I playthrough of the main event scenario. Game is published by GMT Games, designed by Salvatore Vasta. We're getting ready to enter into the Soviet Operations phase of March 1944. The weather, unfortunately, is severe, so no real big fireworks are planned. The Russians do have, a bunch of stuff on their card, but other than the heavy artillery, they can't really use anything. And the surprise attack marker would not be useful in severe weather. I want to save that for poor or clear. So the Soviets don't have a lot to do. They do have the capability of whacking this guy a couple times. So maybe we can end the first before I can get out. So we're going to try down here first. We'll go after the Panzer. So 5th Tank, 7th Guard, and 2nd Guard. So that's 6. Takes me down to 34. I didn't take off one more for the British to move their garrison unit that I moved in northern Italy. So correct that. So that's 6 for the Soviets, production points. They start off with an elite who's +1, and then they get +1 for each of their other buddies. So they're +3. There's no terrain involved. The Germans start off at +2 because they're German. Nobody can play airplanes. Tanks don't count. Blah, 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 blah. So we have our die rolls. The Russians roll 2 + 5 is a 3 plus 2 + 3 is a 5. Half to 2.5 rounds up to a 3. So the Russians have a 3. And the Germans roll a 2 + 2 is a 4, rounds down to a 2. A 3 to a 2 is no result. So, blah, that didn't work. It very seldom does. The other 3x attack. So the armor, the shock, and the 8th guards. So that's 2, 4, 5 more. Puts me down to 29. I almost should have thrown in the surprise attack marker here because I could have rebuilt it immediately. Oh well. Maybe next turn. Next turn will be poor. It might be more effective then. We'll just have to wait and see. What am I doing? Oh, the guards unit is the primary, so he's +1 for being an elite, +1 for each of his buddies. So it's +3, and then it's -1 because of the terrain. So it's a +2 to a +2. And the Russians roll. 2 + 2 is a 4, rounds down to a 2. They can't take the hex that way. And the Germans roll 4 + 2 is a 6, rounds down to a 3. So Nor holds. The next attack is Smolensk. So that's 2, 3, 4, and that's a shock army. So that's 5 more. Down to 24. Attacking at Smolensk. So again, it's going to end up being a net +2, +2. +1 because he's elite, +1 for each buddy. It's +3, -1 for the city. And the Germans are at +2 because they're Germans. So +2 to +2 on Smolensk. Oh, hey, I rolled 2 dice. That doesn't count. I rolled a 6 with the Russians. +2 is an 8. Rounds down to a 4. Hey, I've got a 4. The Germans roll a 2. +2 is a 4. Rounds down to a 2. And a 4 to a 2 is a DR. Yay, we pushed them out of Smolensk. Yay. They only have one legal retreat route, so they go back to 2246. The airplane must be rebased. And he wants to stay kind of in the vicinity, so he'll take a sortie for that. And back up to Belaluki. And then this can go away. And we'll have the... Who do I have take this? I guess I take it with the shock army. Because the tanks would not have retreat routes if I took it with the tanks because they're zones of control, so I have to take it with the shocks. If I'd have realized that, I might have tried to do some finagling there. Oh well. I didn't. We're going to see if we can get a +3 to +2 to give me a step on the first, and then maybe I can get rid of him. So the fourth is going to go 1, 2, and then the 6 guards and the second shock all activate. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 more. Yeah, I need to double check my Russians, make sure I'm doing this right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 from 40 leaves me at 21. So, okay. And then here, the shock army is the one that's going to be the primary because he's an elite. So it gives him a +1 and then +1 for each of his buddies. Gives him +3 since there's no terrain involved. The Germans are still at +2 because they're not isolated or anything. So trying to see if I can get my split here. The Russians, 2 + 3 is a 5, rounds down to 2.5, or flip, divides to 2.5, rounds up to a 3. The minimum the Germans can get is a 2. They roll a 1, they get a 3, which halves to 1.5, rounds up to a 2. The most they can get is an 8, which rounds down to a 4, which cannot do any damage to me, so there's no reason to roll dice. The attack simply fails. Since I've been wanting to get some of these guys up into the line, I'm going to go ahead and move the 10th guards up here and activate this one. So that puts me down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 24. I should be at 16 now. Right. Okay. And then what that gives me is an elite and a +1 guards will go against the first. So it's +2 to +2. If I can get a retreat, he'll lose a step, but he's got the points to rebuild it, so it's just sort of a heroic victory for me. So roll a die. 3 + 2 is a 5. 2.5 is a 3. I can't retreat him with a 3, so we don't have to roll dice. It's the math thing. Just to show you. The Russians have a net, 3 + 2 is 5, rounds, have it to 2.5, rounds up to a 3. The minimum the Germans can get at +2 is 3. If they roll 1, they add 2, they get 3. 3 becomes 1.5, rounds up to a 2. So when you end up with a net 3, you have no chance at all. If you get it to a net 4, then the Germans on a 1 or a 2 will be retreated. So it's very low odds that in severe that some of this stuff comes off because I'm not going to use heavy artillery unless I'm taking something like Kiev or Leningrad where, that's a factory. It's worth spending the heavy artillery for it. Because these others aren't really making any major breakthroughs. But the first is definitely well and truly surrounded, so maybe the Germans will finally give up on it and just back up, which is kind of my thought here. My thought processes on this is that, it's time for the Germans to exit stage left, put the armor back in stasis, so to speak. I'm going to need him to start being a reserve unit in the north. Okay, the Russians really don't have... they've got like 4 points to do in replacements because their aircraft aren't used up. So I've got 4 points to use up in replacements. So I could move this guards tank army. I'll move him to here, so he's on a rail line. That'll cost me 2. I think that's about all there is. There really isn't a lot for the Russians. Well, I could close up my other guards armies here. Couldn't I? Yeah, why don't I do that? I'm going to spend 4 for 2 guards armies and another one for regular infantry. So I'm going to be down to 9. This guy's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 2150. Then the 11th guards will move up, and the 5th guards will move up. So I kind of got my guys. My best guys are in the line, so they don't have to spend movement points. I do have a couple guards in the south that are. I'm going to move him up too. We're just trying to get guys up close to the front to. And the aircraft in Kalinin, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll leave it there. Move it next turn. So I'll only have 1 sortie after I move him. Because he's out of range of being counter-aired, so he'll be available. Okay. Yep, that's the Russian turn. Everything is in supply. Either on-rail lines are right next to them. All over the place. Nobody's cut off. So, minor victory. We pushed them out of Smolensk for all those attacks. Spent the winter pushing them out of Smolensk and trying to trap the first infantry, German infantry, that just refuses to stay trapped. So, we go into the no supply phase. There are no markers like that, so we can skip it. Replacements for the Axis. What do they got? They have 24. And they don't have anything to build, do they? There's nothing in their mobilization box. All their infantry is flipped face up. So all they need to do is, redress some airplanes. So I think that's what they're going to do. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. I count 15. So that's 10. And then 5 more should give them to 9. I thought about building the surprise attack marker, but I don't know that I'd ever see a point where I could actually use it. And I think getting my airplanes down, so that's 3, 6, 9, 12. Then I had 1 over here. So that's 15. And then all my planes are free of sorties. So there'll be a major air battle coming very soon. But other than that, the Germans don't have anything else to clear. So, yep, they're done. The West, we could do the fun stuff first. I have a feeling I'm going to be using this 2 a lot, so I'm just going to leave it out here in the sea. These 2 come down to, well, they're not Americans. Let's do Americans first. This thing goes away. This one goes away. This one goes away. This comes down too. This one comes down too. Where are we? This thing goes away. And that's all the Americans. Oh, nope. And this guy gets flipped. Knew there was one more I had to do. So the 3rd armor is now ready to go. And then the British will start off here in the med. So that's 6, 9. That's 9 that the British have spent out of their 21. So leaves them at 12. So they come back up here. 3. And 4 is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 3. 1, 2, 3. And then they can go ahead and clear their fleet as well for 4 more. Leaves them with 1 point, but they don't have anybody to flip, so they don't care. Or rebuild. So they didn't quite spend all their production points, but they did do pretty good. Kind of like the Germans. It's like, hey, just ran out of places to spend it. So, and in the Russians, what is garrison? Yes. They're going to spend 2 to flip this Guards army. There's 2 for that. And 2 to make this airplane be full. Or 3, actually. So that puts them down to 12. And that's all they have. They don't have anything else that they can do. So I've got excess production points. Guess I should have made some bonehead attacks, but I really didn't see any. Yeah, okay. So that's replacements. Nobody's got any upgrades at this point. Mobilization, I don't think anybody has anything. Only the Americans have stuff. So Western mobilization, they have stuff coming here. They're going to get a convoy, 4 sorties. And then they get the first French army. So, and that's mobilization. Nobody's talking because we're all still fighting. I haven't conquered Germany yet, so the game isn't over. End of turn phase. Turn track comes up. The action card comes up. The Germans get back some stuff. They get a submarines marker. They get their economic reforms. So it goes ahead 4 turns. 1, 2, 3, 4 into August. And their factory, extra factory count marker, goes up by 1. So now they have 6 plus 13. They have 19. They'll be back up to 38. A lot of production for the Germans. Oh, and the Germans got their jets marker, so they'll be able to affect 1. They get +2 in 1 air combat somewhere by playing their jets. So that could help. And the Western Allies, they get an ultra marker back. Russians get 2 partisan markers. So they got another partisan's marker. The British got their surprise attack marker. And they got an upgrade, so the BEF will suddenly become very, very good, and the Americans have stuff to mobilize. So the American Army is starting to roll in. Now we got to find a way to get it onto the continent here very quickly. And that was the end of March. Move the turn marker into April. Advance this up to the weather phase. And a lot of things ready for the summer months when they finally come. Will be a large, very long turns, I have a feeling. Anyway, that was the Soviet and end of turn phases of March 1944. I'm Gen608. If you like my videos, please subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. We will return with the April 1944 turn the next time we get together. And until then, bye-bye.